The lights dimmed over the grand arena in Moscow, and a low rumble of anticipation rolled through the crowd, like distant thunder before a storm. This was no ordinary night. It was IBA Champions Night, a stage where rising warriors stepped out of the shadows to carve their names into the unforgiving stone of the heavyweight division. The ring glowed under the bright white lights, ropes trembling slightly, as if they too could sense the violence about to unfold. On one side stood Karnukaev Ramazan, fighting on home soil, carrying not just his gloves, but the weight of expectation from a nation that demanded resilience. Across from him stood Boltaev Davlat, a man forged in the fires of international competition, an Olympic bronze medalist, with a reputation already echoing across continents. This wasn't just a fight, it was a collision of ambition and destiny. The crowd buzzed with curiosity, knowing they were witnessing two fighters at the crossroads of their careers. For Ramazan, it was a chance to prove he belonged on the big stage. For Davlat, it was about confirming what many already believed, that he was destined for greatness. As the announcer's voice cut through the tension, the fighters locked eyes, and in that silent exchange, everything was said. Pride, hunger, war. The bell hadn't even rung yet, but the battle had already begun in their minds, in their breathing, in the tightening of their fists. The opening bell rang sharp and unforgiving, slicing through the charged air as both fighters stepped forward cautiously, like predators circling before the first strike. The first round was a chess match disguised as combat. Karnukaev Ramazan moved with measured steps, his guard high, testing distance, probing for weaknesses. Boltaev Davlat, draped in calm confidence, mirrored him with calculated patience. There were no wild exchanges, no reckless gambles, only subtle feints, twitching shoulders, and jabs that whispered rather than roared. The audience, initially roaring, settled into a tense silence, watching every movement like a suspenseful thriller unfolding frame by frame. Ramazan attempted to assert himself with a few probing jabs, but Davlat's defense absorbed them effortlessly, his composure unshaken. It was clear from the outset, this would not be a chaotic brawl, but a battle of intelligence, timing, and discipline. As the seconds ticked away, Davlat began to press ever so slightly, stepping into range, testing Ramazan's reactions. A late surge saw him push forward, landing glancing shots that hinted at the storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. The bell rang again, ending a quiet yet telling first round. It was a round that revealed little to the casual eye, but to those who understood the craft, it spoke volumes. Davlat was studying, calculating, waiting, and Ramazan, though composed, was already being pulled into a pace he did not control. As the second round began, the rhythm of the fight started to shift, like a tide slowly turning under the surface. Boltaev Davlat began to find his range, his punches no longer exploratory, but purposeful. His jabs snapped with greater authority, each one a message sent directly to Karnukaev Ramazan. You are in my world now. Ramazan, sensing the change, tried to respond by increasing his output, stepping forward with combinations, but many of his punches met gloves, elbows, or simply empty air. Davlat's defense was not just solid, it was intelligent. He slipped just enough, leaned just enough, wasting none of his energy. Midway through the round, the first real signs of dominance emerged. Davlat strung together a clean combination, punctuated by a sharp uppercut that snapped Ramazan's head back slightly. The crowd reacted instantly, a wave of sound crashing against the arena walls. Ramazan pressed forward in response, trying to reclaim ground, but his attacks lacked precision. He was fighting harder, but not smarter. Davlat meanwhile remained composed, stepping back when needed, stepping in when opportunity called. By the final minute, the difference was becoming clear. One fighter was reacting, the other was dictating, and as the bell sounded ending the second round, it was Davlat who walked back to his corner, with the quiet confidence of a man beginning to take control of the narrative. Round 3 was where the fight began to truly reveal its identity. Boltaev Davlat stepped into the round with a new level of urgency, his movements sharper, his intent unmistakable. He was no longer content with observation. He wanted control. His combinations flowed more freely now, punches chaining together with rhythm and precision. Karnukaev Ramazan, on the other hand, began to feel the pressure. His breathing grew heavier, his footwork less fluid. He tried to fire back, throwing combinations of his own, but they often lacked coordination, breaking apart under the weight of Davlat's counters. A clean right hand from Davlat cut through the guard, followed by a crisp jab that kept Ramazan at bay. The crowd sensed the shift, their energy rising with every successful strike. Ramazan, refusing to surrender, dug deep, pushing forward with bursts of aggression, but each advance was met with calculated resistance. Davlat's timing was becoming a weapon of its own. He wasn't just landing punches, he was choosing when and how the fight unfolded. In the closing seconds of the round, Ramazan managed to land a respectable counter, a brief moment of success that ignited the crowd, but it was not enough to turn the tide. The bell rang, and as the fighters returned to their corners, the narrative was becoming undeniable. This was no longer an even contest. This was a demonstration of control, precision, and growing dominance. By the time the fourth round began, the atmosphere had shifted from curiosity to realization. Boltaev Davlat was in full command, his confidence radiating with every step he took inside the ring. His punches came in combinations now, jab, cross, uppercut, each sequence executed with the calm precision of a seasoned tactician. Karnukaev Ramazan, though still standing strong, began to show visible signs of fatigue. His reactions slowed, his guard slightly delayed, openings appearing where there had once been none. Davlat capitalized on every one of them. A sharp uppercut on the inside snapped Ramazan's head back, followed by a quick pivot that left the Russian swinging at shadows. The crowd roared, sensing they were witnessing a masterclass in ring control. Ramazan attempted to rally, throwing a flurry in desperation, but Davlat read it perfectly, slipping and countering with ease. It was no longer just a fight, it was a lesson. Davlat even began switching stances, adding another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming performance. Each second that passed seemed to widen the gap between them. As the round came to a close, Ramazan leaned slightly against the ropes, taking deep breaths, while Davlat returned to his corner composed, focused, and in complete control. The message was clear. This fight was slipping away from the hometown fighter. The fifth round unfolded like a continuation of the same relentless narrative. Boltaev Davlat dictated the pace with absolute authority, moving fluidly between offense and defense, his confidence now unmistakable. Karnukaev Ramazan tried to summon a comeback, throwing heavier shots, loading up with intention, but his punches lacked the speed and accuracy needed to trouble his opponent. Davlat, ever composed, picked him apart with a disciplined jab, following it with combinations that broke through the guard with increasing frequency. At one point, a clean overhand right landed flush, drawing a sharp reaction from the crowd. Ramazan staggered slightly but held his ground, his determination refusing to fade, even as the odds stacked against him. The referee occasionally stepped in to separate them, but each reset only led back to the same story: Davlat in control, Ramazan chasing. The crowd, once hopeful for a home victory, now watched in respectful silence, recognizing the skill and dominance on display. As the round neared its end, Davlat closed strong, landing precise shots while maintaining distance, leaving Ramazan swinging at air. The bell rang and the outcome seemed all but decided. The sixth and final round arrived, and with it, one last opportunity for redemption. Karnukaev Ramazan came forward with urgency, throwing everything he had left, his punches fueled by desperation and pride. But Boltaev Davlat remained composed, slipping, countering, and controlling the distance with surgical precision. At times it almost looked like a sparring session, Davlat moving effortlessly, landing at will, while Ramazan struggled to connect cleanly. The crowd rallied behind the Russian, urging him forward, but the gap in skill and timing was undeniable. Davlat's work rate remained high, his punches consistent, his control unwavering. Even in the final moments he refused to coast, continuing to press, to dominate, to prove a point. Ramazan, to his credit, never stopped trying, throwing until the very last second, but his efforts fell short against the superior technique of his opponent. As the final bell rang, both fighters stepped back, chests heaving, the war complete. It was not a knockout, but it was decisive. The judges' scorecards were merely a formality, the crowd already knew. The fighters knew. And when the announcer's voice echoed through the arena in Moscow, it confirmed what had been written round by round. Boltaev Davlat was declared the winner by a wide unanimous decision. A dominant performance, a statement victory. As he raised his hands calm and composed, it was clear. This was more than just a win, it was a glimpse into the future of the heavyweight division. For Karnukaev Ramazan, it was a tough lesson, but one that would shape his journey moving forward. Respect was exchanged, gloves touched, and as the lights slowly dimmed, one truth remained. On this night under the bright lights of Moscow, a rising star didn't just win a fight. He announced his arrival to the world.